Hello and welcome back to the GamesIndustry.biz Investment Summit Online, sponsored by Xsolla and Renaissance PR. Our final conference session of the Investment Summit is presented by Xsolla and features a chat with Bitkraft Ventures about their investments in games. So I'll hand over now to your host from Xsolla, Chris Hewish.
Hi, thank you, and welcome everybody. I appreciate you all taking the time to join us today, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Moritz Beyer-Lentz from Bitkraft Ventures. Moritz is a partner of Bitkraft Ventures based in Los Angeles, with offices also in New York. And for those of you that may not know, if you have just been hiding away from the news for a while, Bitkraft Ventures actually just closed an oversubscribed, massive $165 million investment round for investing into games. And I think this makes them the largest or most active game investor in North America and Europe, if I'm not mistaken. Moritz, would you like to share a little bit more about yourself and this amazing accomplishment?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, always good chatting with you. Yeah, I mean, we're really happy where we ended up with the fund. And just to clarify, maybe this has been a fund with which we've been investing now for over 2 years. So this just marks the finalization of the fundraising at 165. We initially designed this as a vehicle for 125 million, pushed it to 140 and then to 165. And we're certainly very happy with the result. We've already invested in 35 companies with it. And I think what is also important to us is not only the volume of the fund, but also really the support that we were able to gather from institutional investors, but also big strategic investors, many of which are named in the press release that we've put out, to really build a platform for the entrepreneurs in gaming, esports, interactive media, to not just provide capital and provide our team's expertise from partners who've been in the industry now for over 20 years, but really also, being able to open up this global network of strategics that have a vested interest in, accelerating the success of these portfolio companies on a global scale.
Wow, that's fantastic, and congratulations! It's quite an accomplishment. And you yourself, I think personally, have had a number of accomplishments throughout your years. For all the people out there watching, you may recognize Moritz. He was the #1 ranked esports player for Diablo 2 for some amount of time, and really has a good pedigree in games. Worked at Goldman Sachs prior to Bitkraft. And if I'm not mistaken, you were recognized both as Forbes 30 Under 30 and then Capital's 40 Under 40. So I feel very honored to have you with us today to share some of your knowledge. But
I mean, those are all accomplishments from the past, and maybe a little bit more linked to also the Goldman days. So now really 100% focused on gaming and esports, and getting my hands dirty here with honestly an amazing team. Between Jens and Malte and Scott, the founding general partners of Bitkraft, incredibly humble to now work with those guys who've basically been founding operating, investing in gaming, esports, and media assets really for the last 20 years, which for me, made this move from Goldman after 5 years there, and really enjoying my time at Goldman too. So exciting to say that this is where I want to spend the next decade or 2 or 3 and build something special in an industry that many see as an emerging industry, but really is one that's just growing at an incredible scale today.
Yeah.
So happy to talk a little bit about our investment activity, what we typically look for, etc. However you wanna take this, Chris.
Yeah. Well, I would love to do that. You have a massive fund, you're very active. So what kind of investments are you making? What kind of activity have you seen? Like you said, let's talk about not the past now, but some current and upcoming, opportunities or things that have happened. So I'd love to hear what you guys are up to, what you're looking for, what you think our audience might be interested in if they think of Bitkraft Ventures and where there could be fits or interests.
Yeah, sure. So, and I have to be a little bit careful of what's public in some cases and what is still cooking up behind the scenes. But I think on a public record, we've made 10 investments in 2020 alone. Those are new investments in game studios, platforms, or technology companies. In some cases, those are follow-on investments where some of the portfolio companies we've invested in and supported now successfully raised their next round, oftentimes with an external lead investor where we are still excited, of course, and want to take our, want to continue to participate in the upside of the business and came in the follow-ons as well. This, Bitkraft Ventures, to some people might still be known as an esports fund, which is what it started as in 2017. It's been evolving quite a bit since. And really over the last 2 years, this fund that we just closed the fundraising for has been, investing really broadly in gaming. And so maybe just to start from a scope perspective, we're making investments in 3 main areas, right? The first one being game studios and IP. So anyone who's putting out interesting content. The second is interactive platforms, and that's those are theses around the idea of trying to find maybe the next Twitch or Discord. And then the third bucket is what we call immersive technologies. That can include hardware investments such as AR, VR. We've made investments in haptics, audio spatial innovation. And all of these investments are typically centered at the seed and A stage. We've made selectively also some Series B investments, but really that's our sweet spot: seed and A, game studios, gaming platforms, and tech that's related to gaming. We, on our website, which I invite our listeners to check out, we've put out this vision of synthetic realities, which for us ties all these areas together. When we say synthetic realities, we mean the increasing convergence of the physical and the digital worlds that we're observing these days. And some people call it the metaverse. You can think of it as the future that's displayed in Ready Player One, and let your imagination play a little bit. But it gives gaming platforms and immersive tech a broader home and a broader thesis, and that's certainly helpful for entrepreneurs, I believe, to check out just to get a better understanding of what's going on in our heads when we evaluate these game studios, gaming platforms, etc. And I guess in terms of location, we invest globally. We've made the majority of our investments in North America and Europe, but we have investments all across Asia as well. And what we look for in an investment that fits those other criteria that I laid out. Obviously, the founders and the extended team are very important to us, as it always is in the seed and A stage. Any product traction, any metrics, any user testing, or maybe even play testing that we can do is always very helpful to convince us. Obviously, we want to know how entrepreneurs see the market they're entering, what the competition is, what their unfair advantages in these markets, and how defensible that is, possibly by unique expertise or patents. And then also, I think important if you want to raise from VCs versus maybe going down a publisher route, thinking through the risk and return analysis, right? Is this an investment where you have a good chance to maybe double your investment? Or is this really an investment that has likely a smaller chance to become a complete breakout success and disrupt an entire sector, right? VCs, I guess, are always looking a little bit more for the latter, especially compared to publishers. So I hope this is kind of like a helpful outline for those that are listening and that are interested in gaming venture capital.
Yeah, that was a very helpful outline. And I think when we spoke earlier, one of the things that you mentioned that I thought was really neat that a lot of people may not think about when they're thinking of a venture partner like Bitkraft, but it's how you sort of work with your portfolio companies and sort of bring them all together. I think you had mentioned something about a virtual summit for your Bitkraft family. Could you share a little bit more about what that was? And
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I hinted on it. The Bitkraft was really built by long-standing entrepreneurs. Our founding general partner Jens Hilgers has been an esports entrepreneur and gaming entrepreneur since the last 90s. He built some of the largest brands globally in esports, including Electronic Sports League, G2 Esports, and Base. So when he founded Bitkraft, it was really primarily with the idea of supporting this growing ecosystem of exciting gaming and esports entrepreneurs. And I think a lot of VCs say this, but we really mean it when we say we are here to help. And we want to build these companies in conjunction with founders. If they're interested in it, we can also be much less hands-on, but typically it's pretty well received. And really wanted to build a venture capital fund that not only can provide substantial capital, right? Having a large fund that can support a company through its entire life cycle is obviously important. But also, bring in our expertise as founders over the last 20 years, as operators over the last 20 years, bring in the partners, media and gaming companies, some of which are investors in the fund. And this virtual summit that you mentioned, which we organized in July, which was already our second summit of this sort in 2020, is one where we invite all our investors, all our portfolio companies, plus friends and family, quote unquote, and we'll have you next time, Chris.
awesome.
Where we host panels, industries discussions, with folks from Epic Games, Riot Games. We have Goldman and KKR present as well, and really build a forum and platform for everyone to exchange ideas, get to know each other, and see where the synergies in the portfolio really are.
I love that. I'm a big proponent of when you're on the game side, and I guess any business, building up a community and connecting, your fans and your audience together. And I just love the fact that you guys are doing that over there at Bitkraft. And I think it really speaks to your background. You're all from the industry, and that really shows. So, and it highlights something important for our audience, which is when you're looking at somebody to help sort of back what you're trying to do, it's not just about the resources or the money they can bring to bear, but you want to look at the culture fit and what other intangibles that they're bringing that can help your business. And that I think that's just really important, and I appreciate that you guys do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be perfectly frank, it's a bit of a selfish endeavor too, right? I would say the best introductions and the most exciting companies we've actually received through that network that we fostered this way. Sometimes outstanding entrepreneurs tend to surround themselves with other outstanding entrepreneurs. And oftentimes it's a portfolio company or investor that brings deals to the table that are off market and outside what you would receive through your typical inbound mechanics. So and by the way, also I think for anyone who's interested in partnering with Bitkraft, we enjoy this process of them also diligencing us, right? And we always encourage founders to do the homework too on finding the right investment partner. And what we typically do is, invite companies that are down in our diligence process to let us know if there's anyone in our extended network, including our portfolio companies, any founders that they would want to talk to and hear from them about how it is working together with Bitkraft. We will make that introduction. And, I think that's probably the most honest and unfiltered way of, opening up, genuine perspectives of those that you've already worked with and them sharing freely without us selecting who you talk to, but you really telling us who you'd like to talk to, and then we'll make that happen.
Absolutely. Referrals, there's nothing like referrals. So, I think on that note, just the idea of talking with people, I would love to take a few minutes and talk with our audience and give them a chance to ask you some questions directly. And, I think unless there's anything more you wanted to share, we could open it up and
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
try
happy
that.
to do Q&A
Okay.
if we have questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, great
And then
stuff.
while we're waiting,
Yeah, we've got a
okay.
couple of questions. Everyone is talking about the metaverse, but where do you see the innovation coming from? Is it something smaller studios can aspire to build?
Yeah, so I mean, I think however you want to call it, right? Like I think the metaverse, our three investment theses, content and IP in the metaverse world becomes basically what the type of experiences you are immersed in, right? So we're looking at even there, we're looking at smaller game studios and smaller IP. There are a lot of talented entrepreneurs out there who are actually, at least from what we can see, are about to put out amazing new experiences that sometimes the beauty of being small is also having the liberty to try out new things and experiment, and also build your IP based on a completely up-to-date tech stack, right? Like oftentimes, in a larger studio, is somewhat limited maybe by the engine or the infrastructure. And so I think absolutely smaller content and IP players have a huge chance and have a better, with the engines and cloud-based architecture that's available today and live ops, have a better playing ground than ever to play this David versus Goliath game very well. We still also see a lot of innovation on the platform side. I don't think there are as clear winners as it sometimes seems in terms of streaming, interacting, paying, etc. And then finally, and that's where I personally get most excited too, is on the immersive tech side, right? Like what will even be these entry points to the metaverse? We're very unlikely will that still be a PC or console or even mobile screen, right? And possibly will that be an AR or VR interface? And how will peripherals look, right? Will gloves be the means of interaction? What role does haptics play? And that's why we dabble in that third area too. So I think, just to answer the question succinctly, yes, I think in all of startups can have a huge impact. I mean, that's essentially the thesis for why we're investing.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Very interesting. With your background in esports, would you ever consider investing in games with aspirations of being an esport, or is it simply too risky?
No, I mean, actually, the way Bitkraft started was as an esports fund, right? This was initially known as Bitkraft Esports Ventures, and we expanded after a lot of our investments were also gaming investments that didn't necessarily have to do anything with esports. But with all our background and leaning a little bit more to AAA content and esports type content, we have a lot of game studios in the portfolio today that are actually titles focused on competitive video gaming and not just casual video gaming. So 100%.
Yeah, no, that's great. Good to hear. How important is building your own technology to attract funding from Bitkraft? Is that very important?
It depends on which type you're, which of the categories you fall in. I think as a game studio, we would be surprised if you don't use Unity or Epic. That said, we're always open to, a good argument for why you would maybe even build your own engine to do it, but it's absolutely not necessary. I think most of our game studios use one of these two engines. But we would definitely care about a unique angle in terms of game mechanics, maybe a modern interpretation of a genre, maybe a spin to a proven concept where you have solid user data to back the idea that it's a phenomenal new path to take. So there, I think the innovation is a little bit more in the mechanics than the technology. If you are pitching a gaming platform or an immersive technology, then I guess you're in an area where the technology itself is a differentiator for your business. And in those cases, especially in the immersive tech side, right? Like if you're pitching us on VR or AR hardware, then obviously we would hope for there to be unique and patented technology that provides a unique proposition and an advantage over the competition.
Yeah, no, that's great. And a question here that I'm sure Chris has heard quite a bit at Xsolla as well about, or from developers, especially smaller developers. Do you need a track record to get VC investment, or would you take risk on a brand new company, a brand new developer with a brand new IP, with perhaps not as much track record?
So I think the earlier you are in the process, right? If you're at the point where you are backing a team in a dream, track record is incredibly important. For a seed round for game studio, we've made investments in game studios where um, the game studio wasn't even formed yet, and it was only clear who the leadership would be. In those cases, you kind of have to rely on what the experience of the team is and what they've built prior. If you are building something in the platform space and this is maybe your first rodeo, although we have a strong preference for second-time founders or serial entrepreneurs that have at least one successful exit. If you have metrics to prove that things are moving in the right direction, that can substitute that. It's not necessary to have the pre-existing expertise, but it certainly helps.
Yes, yeah, that's great. I'm afraid we've run out of time. So, Chris, would you like to say anything before I wrap up?
I just want to remind the audience. Well, first of all, I want to thank you both. Thank you, Moritz, for joining in and doing this fireside chat. This was awesome. It was great to share what Bitkraft is up to. And just remind everybody that Xsolla, we are the video game business engine. We're here to help you get your games to market and have a direct relationship with your players, just sell more globally. So hit us up on our website, xsolla.com, for more info. And that's it for me, Moritz.
Thank you.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you to you both. It's been fantastic today. So, yes, thank you very much. That's it for the conference part of the GamesIndustry.biz Investment Summit. Big thanks to our sponsors, Xsolla and Renaissance PR, and all our speakers and panelists over the past 2 days for their excellent talks and advice. You can catch up with any presentations and panels you may have missed on live.gamesindustry.biz. I'd also like to thank Chris String and Charlotte Nangle for their hard work in organising this event, John and Luke from Epic Land for their tech expertise, to the GI.biz team, James, Matt and Rebecca, and to Guy, Piers, Garrett, and everyone at ReadPop for making this event possible. And finally, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for supporting and taking part in this second GamesIndustry.biz Investment Summit online. I really hope that you had some great meetings over the 2 days and you get business support and funding for your games. We're now hosting the Games Industry Gathering networking event. If you want to join with hundreds of other games industry contacts on Zoom, there's a link in the Investments Summit Discord, and you would have received an email that was sent to all Summit attendees today as well. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again soon.